Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for this morning's Breakfast Tyne with myself, Paul. Thank you once again for tuning in. It is, of course, match day. Newcastle United taking on the Portuguese side, Benfica, in the Champions League tonight with a kick-off of 8 o'clock. And you can listen to full match commentary right here on the Toon Review, of course, on Match Day Live. That show starts at 7:45 p.m. And we will bring you play-by-play commentary once again of the full game, which we are very much looking forward to this morning. Not a lot of news this morning, I have to say, kicking around, obviously because it is match day and it tends to be a little quieter on match day as the team prepares. But there is a little bit kicking around this morning. A bit of good news as well, because on the back of Nick Pope extending his contract, Bruno, of course, as well, has apparently been offered the extension to his contract, taking him through to 2030. A 5-year deal, and it's now been reported that Tino Livramento is quite keen to sign a new deal. Now, this is very good news for us because Manchester City came a sniffing in the summer, if you can remember. There was lots of reports going around, not just from Northeast journalists, but UK journalists saying that Manchester City had a real interest in Livramento, probably to replace the outgoing Kyle Walker at the time. Now, Newcastle United quickly scuppered anything to do with that and said, that's it, we're not selling Tino, he's going nowhere. But Tino's not on the greatest of contracts, obviously. He signed as a very, very young player, but has come through, is now an established England international, is an established fullback at Newcastle United, whether that be on the left or the right. Of course, he's currently out injured at the minute. However, he is keen to sign a new deal. Obviously, the report talks about Bruno and, of course, other players who really do need to sign new contracts. The report says that former Premier League executive Mick Brown spoke on the chances of Tino Livramento signing a new deal at Newcastle, saying he's keen to stay put. I have no idea how this Mick Brown knows about this, by the way. I find a little bit strange. Livramento has earned all the plaudits he gets. He's worked very hard to become part of that Newcastle team. Despite the injuries he's had, he's played wherever he's needed and has always done a very good job. He's done the same for England as well and has improved his reputation considerably. A lot of that progress has been made since he joined Newcastle, where he clearly has the trust and good relationship with the manager. Of course, when a player is performing at that sort of level consistently, it's going to attract interest from other clubs who might want to bring him in. Now, obviously, that's talking about the situation with Manchester City. I don't think there was any other clubs linked to him, to be honest. Back in the summer, it was mainly just Manchester City, but you get the feeling that if a Manchester City comes calling, you need to do what you can to keep the player. It goes on to say, but from what I hear, Livramento is happy at Newcastle, and I'd expect if there was a new contract on the table for him, he would be keen to stay. It's something that would be the best outcome for all parties if they could get him tied down. Not only do Newcastle get to keep a fantastic player, but he can continue and build on the progress he has made there, playing regularly at the top level. Now, he's 19th apparently on the Newcastle wage list. It says at just 50 grand a week. Now, you and I know that 50 grand a week is an awful lot of money, and basically we would love to be on that kind of money, £50,000 a week. Thank you very much. A lot of people have already commented on, of course, Gillespie's wage at Newcastle and how much he's getting for that. Paul, I don't know who Mick Brown is, and I don't know where he gets the information from. I'm just bringing it to you. I don't dive into much and search out where they get the information. It's just there, and Mick Brown he used to work for the Premier League as far as I can see. But this is what the morning show's all about, matey. Bringing you some stories, whether they are true or not, I don't know. I'm just bringing them to you. But he is on just 50 grand a week, when we say that, I say that with very much tongue-in-cheek, as if to say just. However, we know that there's other Newcastle United players, top-quality Newcastle United players, on much more money than that. And, of course, if you look at the other fullback, Lewis Hall, he's on next to nout at the minute, really, compared to everybody else. So I think it's very important that we do tie these fullbacks down very, very quickly. But 50 grand a week is a lot of money. But he's an England fullback. And England fullbacks, or without a shadow of a doubt, should be on more money than 50 grand a week in footballing terms. If Bruno's new contract takes precedence for Newcastle, Livramento's isn't too far behind as they look to avoid him moving elsewhere, which would be a huge blow at this point in his career. Now, obviously, we know that we now have a new director of football come in who is, cracking the whip, basically, very, very early doors at Newcastle United. He is, we'll come on to what I mean by that in a moment, but he certainly has come in. His intentions are pretty clear. I think his job role and what was expected of him when he started was made very clear to Ross Wilson as well. And to be fair to Ross Wilson, he has started, hopefully, as he means to go on. He wants success at Newcastle United, whether that be across the men's, women's academy, etc. That is his remit. That is what he's going to concentrate on. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I have to say, we've got someone coming in here who is willing to rock the boat. Now, Mitchell obviously tried. When Mitchell came in, there was all those reports of saying that nothing was fit for purpose, etc. And you know what? Fair enough. But I think it's the way he did it, isn't it? It's the way he went about saying that it wasn't fit for purpose, and it upset a lot of people. But Ross Wilson's come in and, he's given a couple of interviews here and there about the process and the future of Newcastle United and what he wants, basically, and he needs from the club, and the club want the same from Ross Wilson. Now, getting these contracts, I think everybody has agreed, throughout the fan base, that this is definitely the thing that needs doing first. He needs to get the contract sorted. He needs to get these players tied down. And it said it in that report there as well, that these big-name players for Newcastle need tying down. There is another report out there this morning that Sandro Tonali is also keen to sign and willing to sign an extension to his contract. So it is all good news coming in regarding the players that we know we want to keep and the elite players at the club. And I think it's fantastic. Let's just hope this all comes to fruition and there's no problems there with signing extensions and we get it done. And I think that will give a real boost, not only to the other squad players, but the manager and, of course, the fans. If we see these players committing themselves to Newcastle United long term, I think it's fantastic. I really do. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this starts to get done. Now, just mentioning a little bit of a funny report here was Nick Voldemade. And Eddie Howe has explained that he's highlighted that Voldemade is coping a lot better than Alexander Isak did when he first arrived at the club. Apparently, he's just breezed in and just made himself at home right away. And it's not uncommon for Voldemade to turn up at training with his kit in a Sainsbury's carrier bag, which he was spotted doing only last week. I mean, doesn't that just tell you how down-to-earth Nick Voldemade is? And he's not asked about, I'm a flashy footballer, I'm going to do this, this, and this. We've seen in Voldemade, he has a very interesting dress sense. There's no doubt about that. He's a very cosmopolitan guy by the looks of things, and likes to dress in cool stuff these days, I guess. I certainly wouldn't be seen wearing what he wears, but this is what the youth of today are wearing. Then fair enough. He is very, very down to earth. Of course, he got an EasyJet flight back from Northern Ireland last week after international duty. There is some players out there who wouldn't do that. Even the short hop across the water, a 45, 50-minute flight, they would want a private jet. And we all know that. There is footballers out there who will act like that and say, right, I want a private jet. I don't want to get on an EasyJet. I'm not flying with the rest of the peasants. I am a footballer. I am rich. I am this, I am that. I want a private jet, but not Nick Voldemade. And it's absolutely brilliant that you hear that he's settling in so quickly. And I guess you can see that on the pitch as well. He gave an interview after the game at Brighton. Yes, he was very disappointed that Newcastle lost the game. but he also stated how well he's fitting in, how good he feels. That the goals will have done him no harm at all, of course. But settling in is a massive thing. And Eddie pointed this out in press conferences, that this is, his way of doing things. He likes to come in, just mingle with the side and just take everything in his stride, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's settling in very quickly, scoring goals. He's got his first German goal, and, well, let's just say he's seeing the Rats struggle as well, which will be quite funny because, of course, he took a lot of hammer replacing Isak from a lot of places, especially in his home country of Germany, which I thought was very unfair. Good morning, Mr. Rummenigge again. He's been made to eat his words, and I'm all for it. I'm absolutely all for it. Johnny NUFC has gifted a Toon Review membership. Thank you, Johnny. That's very kind, matey. Andy says, I seen him walk into Sainsbury's near ours. He's a class lad. Well, there is loads of photos out of him, since he signed for the club, whether it be Sainsbury's or whether it be Tesco. He's just one of us, guys. That's all he is. He's a human being. Yes, he plays football, and yes, he's very well paid. But I think he is so down to earth. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be that man. He doesn't want to be that guy who is, showing off that he's got loads of money, etc. I mean, come on, going to training with a Sainsbury's carrier bag. I mean, your kids wouldn't even go to school with a PE kit in the Sainsbury's carrier bag these days. It has to be, a PE bag that's got a good name on the side of it, or it's not worth anything, and they won't do PE because they won't put their PE kit in a bag which doesn't have a really stately name on it. But Nick just goes in there, and I think that's a brilliant, brilliant way to be a role model. When you see in a player like Nick Altamada, such a high-class, high-quality player who is paid very well, signed for a lot of money, and you see him doing things like that, just, a perfect role model. Just because you've got money, you don't have to show it off, and you don't have to be that person to say, I'm not even going to sort of interact with you because I am way above you, and I am a footballer. And we've seen that many, many times from footballers in the past. But not Big Nick. Not Big Nick. He is chilled out. He's just lapping it up, and he's loving life at the minute, and good for him. He's not letting any of the criticism that these idiots in Germany gave him when he signed. He's not listening to anybody question his transfer fee or how much of it player he is different to Alexander Isak. He's just getting on with it, guys. And I think it's mint. It's absolutely mint. So, well done, Big Nick. And I'd rather have a role model like that than somebody who's driving around in a Ferrari who won't stop for fans or, gets annoyed if you approach them in a supermarket wanting a photo. You're a big name in Newcastle when you play for the football club. You should expect that. Now, I was talking earlier about Ross Wilson and basically laying down the gauntlet, so to speak. Of course, it was announced yesterday. We spoke about it briefly yesterday on the show last night about Becky Langley being sacked. This has got a... I don't know. This has got a little bit of bad... I don't know what the word is. I'm looking around basically, and I'm last night spent a lot of time looking at the reactions from various Newcastle United channels to this. I know Lee at Newcastle Fans TV is very annoyed at this decision, and if I'm going to listen to anybody about the women's team, it's going to be Lee, because he's followed them countrywide for many, many years now. Newcastle Fans TV has done a lot for the women's team, and I know he was very close to Becky in the way of, they did a lot of interviews together, and I think it's a big shame because, I mean, Lee said it's too early. She should be given at least this season, and look, I understand that, and I think when he's talking about that, I think. Given the season, the way it started, the reason I think Becky's lost her job is simply because the money they've spent in the summer, and they want to reach the Super League. I think that is another remit of Ross Wilson's. He's come in, he's got to take it all under the same umbrella, and he wants to be in the Super League. The club want to be in the Super League, and I think that's very, very important. The money they've spent... I've watched a couple of the women's games this season, and I must admit I wasn't jumping up and down. I wasn't excited. I thought, they don't look great here. But when you're trying to integrate new players into the team, and a few of them, and you've lost a few players as well, let's not forget, I think it's very, very difficult. I think you do need a little bit more time. So I understand where people are coming from when they're very upset about Becky's sacking. However, the club also, they want to be places, and football, whether it be the men's game or the women's game, can be very, very cutthroat. We know it can. And the higher you go up the leagues, the more that is expected of you as a manager. How many times do you see in the men's game, you get, you look at a club that's dominated the championship, for instance, absolutely dominated it, and the manager is king of the hill. And they come into the Premier League, and 10 games into the Premier League, they've maybe won 1 or 2. But they get fired. They get sacked because the owners are thinking, the money that's in the Premier League these days, we need to stay there. And they press the panic button very, very early to say, thank you for getting us into the Premier League, but we need somebody better to keep us in the Premier League. And maybe that's what they've done with Becky. They've looked at the situation. Becky's done a marvellous, marvellous job. She's took the women's team from low leagues when they were getting 100 people watching, if that, to now a professional outfit where they've got back-to-back promotions, and now they've have an opportunity of getting into the WSL. And Lee said last night on his video about Becky, actually, that it's changed this season, hasn't it, where there's more teams get promoted. Last season, there was just 1 team promoted to the WSL. Now there's 3, possibly, because the top 2 get promoted because they're extending the size of it, and the third place team goes into a playoff final against the team that finished bottom of the WSL. So there's potentially 3 teams that can get promoted from the championship this year. It's very, very early days. And I think that's what's angered Lee, and it's angered a lot of Newcastle United women's team supporters, because Becky has done such a great job. But I think we also need to take a step back and a deep breath and say, right, let's just chill. Let's just chill out here. Obviously, they're not going to take Becky Langley back. She's gone now, and Newcastle United have to move on. So it's very important that they bring the right person in. They're putting a temporary coaching staff in place until they find somebody new. They've taken a break for international break. But what I'm hearing as well is, a lot of fans saying, should Eddie be looking over his shoulder now? Should he be a little bit nervous about what's going on with the women's team? Has that just proved that, it doesn't matter how well you've done in the past, if you start to show a little bit of failing here and there, and you're not getting us to where the ownership want us to be, or where Ross Wilson and David Hopkinson, where their remit is, where they want us to be, is that the sign that they're going to pull the trigger? Now, listen, I'm not saying for 1 second that Eddie's job is under any risk at all, because I don't think it is, and I don't want it to be. I think Eddie Howe is the man to take us forward. He's done a marvellous job. Does he make mistakes? Yes, just like any other manager, to be fair. But what he's done for this club is sensational. But so was what Becky did. But they pulled the trigger on Becky. But I think we're a long way from anything happening like that with Eddie Howe looking over his shoulder or anything. I think what it does prove is that the ambition is still there. And many people, certainly throughout the summer, were questioning whether PIF was still wanting big things for Newcastle United, was still wanting to be the elite side, number 1, as the chairman put it in an interview not long ago, remember? And I do think this kind of proves that they're still wanting to be the best. And you can bet your bottom dollar that the new ladies manager that comes in will be a big name. And a big name to get the team into the WSL. As sad as it is about Becky, the team has to move on. It'll be a big shock to the players, especially after coming out the back of a 3-3 draw against, Super League giants Man City. It'd be a big shock to the players, but they have to group together now. They have to get behind the new person that comes in and move forward. Becky has done us proud by getting to where she is. And it will be the same when Eddie eventually leaves. You know, when Eddie eventually leaves, I think everybody will turn back and look at Eddie's time at Newcastle United and think, thank you. You know, and that's how it should be. Eddie's won a trophy. He's got us into Champions Leagues. And there's more to come from Eddie. There's loads more to come from Eddie. So I don't think Eddie needs to look over his shoulder at all. I think he's very much part of the course now, Eddie. There is a good leadership team in place. And long may that continue. We need that to happen. We need the stability, I guess, moving forward at Newcastle United. This has rocked the boat a little bit, absolutely. But we'll see what happens. But Becky did a marvellous job. But they are willing to make big decisions. And, you know, if this is Ross Wilson's decision, then we have to go with it and see what they have planned. Harry says, Paul, did you read Graham Jones is shortlisted to be part of Potter's Sweden staff? I saw that this morning. That would be a very interesting one for me because of Isak. Now, Graham Jones, as we know, is a Newcastle United fan, a Geordie inside and out, and I can't see in any world him working with Alexander Isak. However, it's an international. Now, I'm not sure whether this would mean that Graham Jones would actually be full-time with Sweden or whether he'd continue his role at Newcastle United. I think that would be sort of discussions that would have to take place. Graham Jones has been there. He's been with England, of course. He's got the experience of international football as well. And I think Graham Potter needs men that he can trust alongside him. This is a big job for Graham Potter, and quite frankly, I was really surprised when he got the job. It's not a long contract, but it's an international job on the back of a couple of failing managerial jobs in the Premier League. So I'm quite surprised he got the job, but what he will need is people that he can trust in place alongside him. And maybe Graham Jones is that kind of person, but would Graham Jones really want to jump ship and go to Sweden full time? I'm not sure he would. I think he's on a good thing at Newcastle United, and he's done a fantastic job at Newcastle United. Let's not forget that as well. He's been excellent for Newcastle. So I'm not sure that happens, to be fair. Graham says, I'm not having a go. He won us a cup. However, there's certain things that are questionable. Graham, you could say that about any manager, to be fair, mate. I mean, look, I understand that Eddie is not going to win everybody over, and certainly hasn't won everybody over. There is still people very much on the fence about Eddie or very much wanting Eddie out for some reason. Listen, it's up to you what your opinion is of Eddie Howe, but I don't think he's in any danger at all of losing his job. Yes, some decisions he makes are very questionable, very surprising, very strange, but name me a manager that doesn't do that. You know, there's a lot of people quick to jump on managers very, very quickly, saying, oh, we previously to games, we need to take risks, we need to do that, we need to do that. And then managers do that, and then they're criticised again. They can't win when you're in a managerial position. But I do believe he still makes mistakes. Yes, he does. But I'm certainly not going to be on that side of thinking, oh, Eddie's at risk, because he's not. He just isn't. DK says another 8 games and only 2 wins. Howe should get read the Riot Act, and Wilson shows us he hasn't been brought in to be Howe's bitch. Look, I think the thing with Becky Langley here has fired up a lot of people, as if to say, oh, you know, they will not take any shite. So if Eddie drops points here and there, his job is going to be at risk. I don't really believe that. But hey, look, this is the beauty about football. Things happen in football, and people talk, and people have their own opinions, but and assumptions keep coming up, and it's interesting to see how you guys feel. Here we go, Lawrence. How two-faced can you get? You slagged Mitchell for rocking the boat, yet you praise Howe's mate for doing the same. Shows your bias, sadly. Lawrence, what are you talking about? Seriously. Slagged Mitchell for rocking the boat. I slagged Mitchell off when it came out that he had disrespected the staff that were working for him, that he never turned up for work. He'd go missing for weeks on end and nobody knew where he was. A lack of communication, those kind of things. So yes, I did slag Mitchell off. But I'm not talking about rocking the boat like internally. He's rocked the boat by firing. If that was indeed his decision, Lawrence, we don't know if it was his decision. But if it was, it proves that he is not frightened to make decisions. So I don't know what you're getting at there. Two-faced. Dear me. Terrible comment. Mark says, I trust Eddie to get it right. He does every season. It always seems to come good, yeah. Even Eddie said himself, football is a career in which you constantly have to evolve and learn. I would say more so when you have a disruption like losing both frontmen and replacing. Yeah, I mean, it's massive, isn't it? You know, and the fact that one of the frontmen he's brought in to replace one of them that left is still injured and hasn't kicked a ball for us yet. John says, if you want Eddie out, give your head a wobble. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't said how it won't work. I said if he doesn't get things right this season, he should be fired. I think look, if we do finish in a poor position, then they might look at it. And, you know, I think they do anyway. I think all owners are the same. They take stock at the end of the season and say, right, you know, have we been successful? Have we done things what are the good things and what are the bad things? And they assess things. And I think Newcastle United are exactly the same. But Eddie is bringing success to this football club. And I don't know why people are so quick to say, oh, he's looking over his shoulder and all. Crazy. He won't have made that without evidence. Historic Paul is just giving us news, man. Yeah, exactly. He worked for Marinakis at Nottingham Forest. He's definitely not scared. Well, you know what? I mean, it seems like it takes a brave man to work for Marinakis, doesn't it? And a strong-willed man. And clearly he was that. So, yeah. He's got something about him. And that's good for us. And whether you agree with the decision to get rid of Becky Langley, that aside, this just proves that this man, if he is responsible for that decision, is not frightened to make them. Now, Lawrence talks about me being two-faced about Paul Mitchell. I was happy for Mitchell to come in. You know, we did the first show we did, and we looked at Paul Mitchell, and we all said, yes, brilliant. But he's come in, he's made comments when he started the job that it wasn't fit for purpose. Now, maybe that was a little bit too much to start a job with, coming in and saying that. However, he then did nothing. He then did absolutely nothing at the football club. He's been and gone and done fuck all. Absolutely fuck all. Now, like I say, if you agree with Becky's sacking or not, at least it shows that this guy is doing something. And it shows that this new team that we've got in want to be successful. So your point is a moot point completely. Agree, things take time, but Arteta won't get much longer. Arsenal fans are on the edge every season. Well, their fans are ridiculous. I mean, their fans have so much expectation. And we get told this, we get told that, and you know, they just have to win things, don't they? They think they're above everybody else, which I don't like at all. Nottingham Forest surely have done enough to make owners think twice before getting rid willy-nilly. Well, Sean Dyche is in there now, so, you know, I mean, talk about a fall from grace. But listen, if they are threatened with relegation, Dyche is probably the man that will take them and keep them in the Premier League. If the football's any good, that's a different kettle of fish completely. Paul Mitchell had no money. How can he do anything? Trolls, we're talking about internally as well, matey. Just because there's no money on transfers. There was clearly money on transfers. Clearly money, because Mitchell was there when we went for Gay. So there was money there. Simple as that. But what I'm talking about, Trolls, is inside the football club as well. You know, looking at everything and making decisions. Nothing came of Paul Mitchell's reign as director of football. Nothing. But, hey, he's gone now. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. His CV was great, but that's on paper. Different character when in reality. Yeah, look, he came in and tried, but it failed. It failed. This is what I'm hoping for now, is that everybody here, revolving around that leadership team at Newcastle United now, is ready to go and are on the same page, and we start growing and we start getting better and better and better and better. And, tough decisions have to be made in football. And we all know that over the years of supporting our football club. Tough decisions, they have to be made. Doesn't matter what club you are, what league you're in, tough decisions have to be made in order to progress your football club. And this one is tough on Becky. I must admit, it came as a shock. And a lot of people are unhappy about it. But if they think that's the way forward, that we need to go to a new level, we need to do something different, then we have to trust in who we got in there now as a leadership team. So... Stephen says it's really unfair on Mitchell. He arrived at a club that had PSR issues immediately with Anderson Minter. The youth is in a much better place because of Mitchell. Are we? Mary, the academy were hammered by Sunderland 4-1 at the weekend. Things are not great still in the academy. It needs a lot of work. A lot of work in the academy. They have not done great. But listen, there is some good players there. That I'm not denying. Park, he's really coming to fruition now and really probably knocking on the door of being around the first team squad. No doubt about it. They've got Shahaz coming through very well. Sean Neves coming through. There is a few players who are looking good. But if you look at a report a few weeks ago that came out about the youth system, that Newcastle United are looking at letting some youngsters go in January. Again, Ross Wilson's looking at these. Heffernan was on there. Alfie Harrison was on there. Alex Murphy was on there. Newcastle are going to make some big decisions in the next few months that maybe the fans won't agree with. But listen, they want to take us to the top. And you have to be ruthless if you want to be at the top. That's just business. You've got to be ruthless. For all Mike Ashley is an arsehole and we hate him, he's ruthless as a businessman, which earned him his money. You've got to be ruthless. And let's be honest, PIF won't take any shit. But there you go, guys. That is the show this morning. Great debate this morning. Great conversation. Look, I know people are going to have different opinions to me, but that's what it's all about, guys. And I do value everybody that puts in the chat, their opinions. And I'll say if I agree with them or not. It doesn't mean we have to fall out. It doesn't mean there's any malice there or anything like that. That's just football. People are going to have opinions, guys, whether we agree with them or not. People will agree with me about Mitchell. People won't agree with me about Mitchell. However, I think it's really good and a healthy debate when we can all discuss it like that and we don't have to fall out. So thank you very much to everybody for your views this morning. We are back tonight with Matchday Live, 7:45 p.m, of course, with an 8 o'clock kickoff, full commentary of the game. Collux, thank you very much. Full commentary of the game. It's going to be a cracker. Can we get another 3 points in the Champions League? I sure hope so. But enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Have a fantastic time. Please give a like if you've enjoyed the show this morning. And if you're new around here, please do subscribe. It is free of charge and it really, really does help the channel. And of course, please visit our merchandise website, which is thetoonreview.com, where you can pick up your hoodies, your t-shirts, your hats, your drinks bottles. Everything like that is on the website at thetoonreview.com. So thank you very much, guys. We'll see you tonight. Take care.
Come back and check on Sea Breeze.